Contingency funds are to provide additional state funding to partially meet the extraordinary educational needs of a student with significant disabilities in order for that student to receive an appropriate education in the least restrictive environment. Even though we are currently in the 24-25 school year, applications are submitted for the 23-24 school year since we have completely finished that school year. This means the LEA should upload the 23-24 school year documents and use the 23-24 financial information. Per regulation, contingency fund applications must meet the minimum threshold of $75,000 of eligible expenses in order to be considered. When the deadline for applications has passed and applications are reviewed, they are ranked in order of most costly individual applications. Funds are distributed in that way. The award process continues until all funds are expended. The amount is a little over $13 million, but unfortunately, not all applicable applications will be funded. However, even if you did not receive an award last year, that does not mean you shouldn't apply this year. Every year is different with the amount of LEAs that apply and the cost of each individual application. The maximum award value per LA is $150,000. That means even if your application totaled $350,000, the most the LEA would receive is $150,000. Of course, that is the maximum amount, so if your application was $120,000 and you received an award, it would be for $120,000. The application portal opens up on November 18, 2024 and closes on January 3, 2025. These dates are firm, so please mark them in your calendar so you don't miss the deadline. The application portal cannot be opened up after January 3, 2024. If you have a student who meets the requirements and you would like to apply for a contingency fund award, you would go to the IMS site indicated here. The credentials are the same as you would use anytime you go into the IMS site. Once you are in, you would go to the Bureau of Special Education and pick Contingency Fund from the drop-down menu. You may have other items listed in the drop-down, or Contingency Fund may be your only option. That will then take you to this next screen. If you have completed a contingency fund application in the past, this will look the same. Nothing has changed in the past few years. Let me first point out on the bottom in blue where it says Review Other School Years Data. If you are a new administrator, this may be helpful to see what was done in previous years by your LEA. To submit a new application, you would click on Submit New Fund Request. On the next screen, you will enter the LEA demographic information, name, disability, etc. There is an area to write a brief background about the student. You, as the LEI, knows the student, but we at PD do not, so we need a little bit of information. The box does get bigger, but we don't need a book, just a brief description. That goes for the other two text boxes as well, the specific request that describes the extraordinary circumstances and what the LEA has done to ensure least restrictive environment. Another thing to draw your attention to is the yellow reset timer. This site does close down after a certain amount of time, so I would recommend saving as you go, so you don't accidentally lose anything if you get called away from your desk as you are working on the application. The next screen is the financial information. For this part, you would list whatever information you have. Teacher and classroom aides would be prorated. A one-on-one would be the total amount if the student has one. Related services, OT, PT, speech and language, would be prorated as well. If there is a related service we do not have listed, you would click on Other Cost to add it. For example, art therapy $5,000 could be entered there. If the student attends a program outside the district, such as an IU class or private school, you can put the tuition in other costs. If the student attends an approved private school, you can use the 40% the LEA has deducted if in a 40-10 slot. You can use 100% if the LEA pays the entire amount. Another factor to remember if putting in out-of-district tuition, only use the educational costs. Residential costs are not eligible. Also not eligible is ESY as shown on the screen. If the student is being transported on specialized transport, such as a van, that cost can be put in the transportation section. Towards the bottom, you will see the school district state subsidy is deducted from the total amount. It is taken off of all contingency fund applications per regulation. Another regulatory component is the aid ratio. If the application is between $75,000, which is the minimum to apply, and $99,999, the district's aid ratio will also go into effect. If the application is above $100,000, the aid ratio is not a factor. These two items, state subsidy and aid ratio, are two items that will decrease the total eligible cost for the district's application. Sometimes it may be best for the lead to complete this page first. If the calculated eligible costs shown at the bottom of this page ends up being less than $75,000 after the state subsidy or aid ratio, there is no reason to do the written portion since the application will not be reviewed. The calculated eligible cost after the state subsidy and aid ratio is the amount PD reviews. Once you have this completed and the eligible cost is still above $75,000, you would click on the Submit to PD and go to Step 2. The final application screen is to upload the IEP. As I mentioned earlier, this is for the previous year IEP, 23-24 IEP, not the current year. It is a normal choose file type of upload. Now, I know that most IEPs are not from September through August, so you would upload the IEP that covers the majority of the school year. You are also able to upload more than one IEP if there have been revisions. The application does not require a RR, NORIP, or any other document, only the IEP. When you are finished with that, the screen will go back to the home page. The home page will show you how many fund requests you have put in. For example, this one shows one submitted fund request. That's how you know it is officially saved in the system and PDE can view it. If it does not show that, PDE cannot view it and it will not be considered. If it shows unsubmitted, like this other one says, that means you worked on it and saved it, but you did not officially submit it. You would need to click on it and hit submit. As I already mentioned, the deadline is the deadline. If it is not submitted by January 3rd and it does not show submitted on your screen, PDE cannot and will not review it. If you were to click on the Help tab on the top of the screen, you'll be able to message the Leader Help Desk for technical assistance or BSE for procedural questions. The Contingency Fund Guidelines, frequently asked questions, and a printable worksheet are also available on this screen. Notification of awards will be shown on the Contingency Fund website May 1st, 2025. On that day, you will see a yellow notification ribbon as shown here that tells the user to click for the response to the funding request. Funds will be dispersed in the May 2025 UniPay.